When faced with the end of immortality, some people ponder many different things. Their regrets, if they did enough to help the world or their family, should they try and extend that time a little longer, etc. But what happens when this question is asked to a superhero? One that many people think can do anything. Sounds ridiculous, right? Well, one movie sets to answer that question, and that movie is All-Star Superman. Adapted from the 12-issue comic of the same name, the 2011 All-Star Superman movie had some mighty big shoes to fill, considering the monumental acclaim the source material got for its fantastic portrayal of the Man of Steel, and its well-written themes regarding mortality, optimism even in the worst of times, and what it truly means to be a hero. So, did those movies fill in those shoes? Let's find out. The film begins with Superman saving a group of scientists from getting incinerated by the sun, but we quickly find out that this was a trap by Lex Luthor to let Superman take on a lethal dose of radiation from the monster Lex created, as well as from the sun, and now Superman's cells are slowly deteriorating, putting his remaining life on a time limit. Now faced with his limited mortality, Superman sets out to effectively check every item off of his bucket list, while also trying to leave the world in a better place before his last cells die out, and the world loses its Man of Steel. Overall, it's an effective premise, and one that got my attention from minute one. Sure, we've seen some stories before where Superman dies for like 5 minutes, like the titular Death of Superman, and even some stories like Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow in Kingdom Come discuss the end of Superman as a hero, but it's very rare to see an entire story be themed around the end of Superman's life and have it be permanent, at least to that universe. And throughout the film, we see some varying reactions to the news of Superman's slow demise. Lex, for instance, is glad to finally kill Superman. Even when he's facing the death penalty for his crimes against humanity, he's satisfied that he managed to kill the one perceived as a god among men. It's only after his temporary super serum wears off and after he sees what Superman sees every day that he makes the realization that Superman didn't rob him of his chance to save the world. Lex robbed himself of that chance. Because at Lex's core, in most adaptations at least, he wants to save the world and be its savior, but is too blinded by his jealousy to realize that he could still achieve that. So he sabotages himself every chance he gets, just to try and get the one-up on Superman. That's why at the end of the movie, faced with execution for the second time, and no super serum/way to save himself, he recreates Superman's genetic DNA and gives it to one of the smartest minds in the verse. He robbed the world of its saviors, both by sabotaging himself and by killing Superman, so now before he dies, he wants to correct that mistake by using his gifted intellect to create a new savior. One free of corruption and jealousy, one who won't sabotage themselves to save the world, one filled with optimism and love for humanity, another Superman. That's probably one of the better ways to write the end of one of Superman's biggest foes. At least personally speaking. Then the other question comes in when it comes to death. How did the loved ones take the news? Well, it's kinda inferred that Ma Kent knows something is off with Clark, but we don't really get much else from her. Something I will ask to put a pin in for the moment, because I'll get back to that. As for Lois, she is initially devastated to find out the truth about him slowly dying, stating that she wanted to have kids with him and spend the rest of her life with him, a common regret loved ones have with their partner who's dying, or potentially dying, at such a young age, and one that's executed really well here, through the VA work and the animation/music. Now, yes, in hindsight, the aspect of them being unable to have kids due to their different biologies is fucking laughable, because not only does Jonathan Kent exist in the comics, but we also have the end of the movie that implies Lois might be responsible for birthing the new Superman because Lex states that a healthy human ovum is required, and the last line being, they always talked about having kids. But it's still a really damn effective scene, and how it conveys a loved one's reaction to their partner slowly dying from something that can't be cured. Speaking of which, let's discuss something I've talked about a couple times in previous videos on Superman. The topic of Superman viewing himself as a god, and how I feel a lot of the good stories don't have Superman viewing himself as a god. So is All-Star Superman one of the good stories that doesn't have him view himself as this? Well, sort of. While Lex views Superman as a godlike figure, Superman/Clark doesn't. And I think that is best exemplified in the scene where he deals with Bar-El and Lilo, the lost Kryptonian astronauts. Bar-El and Lilo think that Clark should have turned Earth into New Krypton with his immense power towering over all humans, but Clark points out that is not how he was raised. At all. And basically that they should learn to live with humans, not rule over them. Even after Metropolis is taken over by the two, and after getting his ass beat hard by them, he still shows compassion and forgiveness for the two astronauts, because as he says himself, he was raised to forgive others. And I think that's a great way to describe who Superman is at his core. He may have the strength of a superhuman, and may not be from Earth, but he still acts and feels like he is a human, one that inspires hope and optimism out of everyone, both his enemies and his allies.
Skip it up and that.
So while a couple characters use Superman as a god, the story does a great job establishing that he is anything but that, and is just a man with extraordinary abilities who helps those in need. And that's great. On a lighter note, I also really like the animation element this time around. Yes, I know I trashed on a portion of this in the Superman Doomsday video, particularly the lips coming off as very pouty, but that was years ago, and now that I've gotten a chance to re-experience this movie again, I've grown an appreciation for the art style itself. Especially now that I've read the comic this was based off of, and it does a really good job taking the art style, character models, and backgrounds from the comic pages to the silver screen. This looks really damn clean, and I take back my complaint that I made all those years ago. I don't know what the fuck I was talking about then. That being said, this movie is not flawless. And this is where the pin comes back in, because one of the biggest flaws with this movie that I have is its goddamn pacing. Now, I mentioned previously that this was based on Grant Morrison's comic of the same name, the 12-issue series, that is nearly 300 pages in length. Okay, that's a bit of a Herculean task, but hey, a 3-hour movie might be able to nail this. Maybe even 2 hours and 30 minutes? This film is 78 minutes long, and that is including credits. I understand that adaptations take creative liberties in order to try and make the transition to films work as best as it can, but this is sadly All-Star Superman's biggest weakness as a movie. It is so short, and because it is so short, not only are several elements from the comic removed, like the scene with Clark and Bizarro as well as Pa Kent's death and funeral, it also skims over some moments that could have helped later moments hit fucking harder. Two examples that immediately come to mind are the death of Superman's pet Sun Eater and the revelation of one of Superman's robots being reprogrammed to get the super serum for Luthor. With the former, we get like 1 to 2 scenes, and they're short scenes by the way, of Clark taking care of his pet, and then he dies against Solaris, and Superman gets so pissed, he gets the second win and kills the mechanical sun. It's a powerful fucking scene, but it probably would have hit a lot harder if we had more time with Clark and his Sun Eater pet. Instead, it's like, oh, that happened. And with the latter, it pretty much comes out of left field unless you're looking super closely. And it's just tossed out haphazardly when Superman and his robot assistants are dealing with Solaris. What the fuck? It's kind of a big fucking deal. And as a result, it probably would have made for a more powerful reveal if they gave him more fucking time to cook. Like, what the hell is this shit? Actually, I want to go back to the Ma Kent scene I mentioned earlier. It's very much possible that I might have missed this on the reread, but the scene in question where Clark is talking to his mother, that's not in the comic. It was made exclusively for the movie, and they just gave her 2 lines? Are you kidding me? That's his fucking mom! We spend more time with these 2 twinks than with Martha fucking Kent? Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. But I think you got the idea. If this had been given more time, it would have made a lot of moments work better, but because it doesn't, here we are. Now, that bitching aside, does that make this a bad movie? No, not at all. It just makes it a flawed movie. It's like going from a 9 to a 6. And that's unfortunate because everything else about this movie is a really good adaptation of the book. But when the pacing is this crammed and rushed, all that effort is brought down sadly. And that's a damn shame. But, you know what? Hey, maybe one day we'll get a better adaptation of this amazing story. I mean, we did get a pretty good second attempt at adapting the Death and Return of Superman story after all, so there's always a chance. Now, some may be asking, why did you choose this movie to review over all the other Superman movies out there? Well, it's because it hit a core memory of mine. At least I think that's what the kids say nowadays. I don't know. Now, in my reality/timeline, I stopped reviewing movies in 2020 so that I could take care of my family, and also due to the 2 pandemics fucking up my world. I did eventually come back in 2030 to review again since Diana was heading off to college. Long story short, the second pandemic was known as the Renesmee virus, and it sped up the aging process by 200% for anyone born after early 2020, and apparently the reason for that virus's creation was to create more adults for the workforce. It's fucked up. It still doesn't have a cure, sadly, and the only fucking silver lining so far is that the creator finally, and I mean finally, got executed for their crimes last year. So, 2034 for other realities. During my time away from doing reviews, I had some time to reflect on what I did from 2015 to 2020. There was a lot of cringing, some regrets, but at the same time, I also had a lot of fun talking about what I liked or disliked in media. No, it wasn't the most profitable or highest viewing of the channel. But hey, I'd rather have fun talking about something than being a toxic fucking leech. However, when I came back to review again, I decided to do so with one thing in mind. Any episode might be my last, so just have fun. Because the truth of the matter is that there will once again come a day where I can't do this anymore. So why worry about it when I can enjoy the time I'm given talking about stuff I personally like or dislike? My main goal here isn't to act objective or to change anyone's mind. It's just me to give my opinion on what I like or dislike in a piece of media, and then that's it. Some people will agree, some people won't, and that's perfectly fine, and I got no issue with those who disagree with that. Hell, as I've stated multiple times in the past, I got no issue with those who disagree with me. It just means that they found something that I didn't, or enjoyed something that I just personally didn't like, and that's okay. This whole channel is just being subjective about a piece of media, and my opinion doesn't overtake anyone else's. Fuck, I went off traffic again. That's when I remember this movie exists. A movie about using the remaining time you have left to live life to the fullest. Leave a positive impact on those around you, and dealing with loose ends before the time to meet the Reaper arrives. Now, could it have been done better? Yes, as I indicated earlier in this script, it could have been done better. However, I still love this movie, even if it does have a big flaw that is its rushed pacing, because at its core, it's still a great Superman story that encapsulated what Superman and Clark Kent are. However, I think this is getting a little long in the tooth, so I'll wrap it up here. All-Star Superman the movie is a flawed movie, but I still enjoy the hell out of it, and I highly recommend both this and definitely the original comic series for anyone that's a fan of the Man of Steel. What? It has been a while since I got really angry / critical of something. And variety is the spice of life after all. So how about next time I tackle something that makes my blood boil? How about I tackle something that claims to be stronger than before? It takes every step backwards in terms of characters, storytelling, and action. Until then, I'm David Grimm, and thank you for watching.